Clemson's Greatest Games is brought to you by Roto-Rooter. When you need a local plumber fast, call Roto-Rooter. And by First National Bank. Find a branch or ATM near you at fnb-online.com.
From the pocket, looks down the field to Theon Kane, and he collects it for a Clemson touchdown. Clemson in the pocket, shoots it downfield for Kane again, who makes a diving catch for the touchdown. And taking a shot, losing the ball. Clemson's got it. Watson kicks it, pitches it across the middle. Touchdown, Williams. Forsyth out of the backfield, didn't see him and throws a pick. Slant, Scott. Fight spring and walks in. A 1-2 punch from the Tigers.
NC State taking on Clemson in 2012. The Textile Bowl, the Wolfpack taking on the Tigers. It's always weird. Strange things happen. The favored team loses a lot. And when these two teams get together and play, you never know what's going to happen. Something unexpected always happens, a crazy ending, something weird during the game, something controversial.
NC State in 2012. Interesting game on the schedule because it was apparent that Florida State was going to win the division. They'd beaten Clemson in a shootout in Tallahassee on a Saturday night early in the season. That 2012 season, though, was one of great promise. But for it to be a season that anyone was going to come out of feeling good and feeling like the trajectory was still upward, they needed to get some big wins late in the year. And in my opinion, if you don't beat NC State, you probably don't make the bowl game in Atlanta.
Clemson, NC State, going all the way back to all those Textile Bowls, has always been just something different. There's just something different that happens in this game. NC State had been a thorn in Clemson's side for a long time, but Clemson was in the beginning stages of a stage now of dominance over NC State, and this would be one of those games that would be pivotal in that run of dominance.
When Clemson and NC State play, the Textile Bowl, it's a rivalry that goes way back. It just seems like crazy things happen. We've seen that throughout this history in the series with Clemson and NC State. And I think part of that too is both fan bases. It's not a Florida State situation where I really dislike Florida State, but when it comes down to NC State and Clemson, these two have such a history. They have had some weird ones, some games where you just look back and scratch your head and think, what the heck happened here? But that's also the fun part of NC State Clemson, is you don't know what to expect.
So coming into the NC State game, Clemson was 9-1 and really in position to go to a big bowl here in the 2012 season. NC State was 6-4, but their quarterback, Glennon, had really had a very good season.
The other storyline of this game is revenge. The Wolfpack derailed an incredible season that the Tigers had in 2011. Clemson Tigers were ready for NC State on this day in 2012. They wanted to make up for what happened last season.
You know, I remember just having a chip on our shoulder from last year or the year before in 2011. When we lost at NC State, which is to me is one of my least favorite places to play. I mean, the crowd's on top of you, they're loud, and they're always a good team that gives us trouble. Obviously, coming into 2012, we wanted to win. We wanted to protect our house, playing at Death Valley against a good NC State team. You know, we wanted to show them, you know, what we're about.
In 2011, Clemson loses. And then it kind of rips their heart out because they've had this great, this great start to the season, and they're going to finish it well. And they're, all you got to do is get through November, lose to Georgia Tech, go to NC State, and just get face planted. I mean, it was a massacre. And so you're coming into 2012 thinking, okay, this is a revenge game for Clemson. The way Clemson's beaten NC State recently, people will forget that. But in 2012, it was definitely a revenge spot. Coming into the game, Clemson people knew that they could score. We found that out in 2011, and then 2012, everybody's back. This offense is going, clicking, blowing teams out that were not very good.
After great wins or great losses or embarrassing losses, you tend to think about the last time you faced that opponent. You're thinking about maybe a revenge type of mindset, but also just continuing what we have going on. We're 9-1 at that point. We're coming into Death Valley. We just lost big to them last year in their house, so we're hoping to be able to take back some of that pride and those just being able to talk a little bit about that rivalry.
Founders Federal Credit Union is your credit union. We are devoted to serving you through good and bad, and through highs and lows. We are committed to standing by you, our members, our communities, our family. Together, we can persevere through these times. We are your credit union, and we are here for you. Relax with Founders Federal Credit Union.
I remember when I was a little girl and maybe I had a tough day at school. I'd go up the stairs to my room and turn on some music because I knew that the music would make me feel a certain way. And with the help of my life scholarship, I was able to major in music performance and bring that healing quality to others. And I get to help them find whatever it is that they're looking for. I get to be a part of that.
Roto-Rooter Zero Contact Service is your assurance that we're putting safety first. On the job, we'll keep a safe distance, wear boot covers, face masks, disposable gloves, and other protective gear. We're following CDC guidelines, washing hands, and disinfecting touch points. And we'll put on fresh gloves before handling your paperwork and credit cards. You can depend on Roto-Rooter to lead the way in safety with Zero Contact Service.
Clemson-NC State rivalry is always unpredictable, and it's probably very underrated. It seems to be that both teams are almost thorns in each other's side over the years. Crazy finishes, crazy starts, but nobody expected how this game would start.
So the Tigers got off to a great start in this game, went up 13-0. Taj Boyd scored a touchdown on a run early, and then we had two Chandler Catanzaro field goals to put Clemson up 13-0, and everything seemed to be just wonderful.
This was one of those games that we truly had to make our adjustments on the sidelines. We had to be confident in what we were doing, and we had to go outscore some people.
And so you go up 13-0, and you're like, all right, rolling. Let's just fire up the grill in the parking lot. Let's get this thing over with. Church is out. It's fine. And then all of a sudden, NC State makes a run. And they scored in bunches. And in 2011, it kind of happened like that, where it was almost like the game was over before you knew it. And so they get up by double digits, and you're going, oh no, not again.
Clemson comes out, they're up 13-0. Offense is rolling. Things are going great. The next thing you know, you look at the scoreboard, and here is NC State up 24-13. All of a sudden, this is the biggest deficit that Clemson has faced the entire year.
The defense couldn't stop the ball rolling downhill, and it was a little bit frightening. You knew Clemson was going to score because they were in their building. There was a comfort level. But the question that set in was, are they going to be able to get stops? Because that was still very much up in the air with that 2012 unit.
So in the second quarter, then the Tigers finally started their comeback, actually scored 4 touchdowns in that second quarter, the first of which was to Brandon Ford.
Boyd with the keeper goes out in the flat to the tight end. Ford, touchdown.
And the Tigers took the lead on a touchdown pass from Taj Boyd to Sammy Watkins. So it's 27-24. Clemson is now back in the lead. NC State is driving, and they have the ball deep in Clemson territory, in which there actually was a key defensive play in this game.
And there's Rashard Hall, steady, a guy who was just such a great performer in that defense in his career at Clemson, has since come back, works in the paw journey, and it just always had a very calm, personable demeanor about him. In that moment right there, the calmness and the poise, he was right where he needed to be, makes the interception in the end zone.
Pressure coming again. Carter has it intercepted in front of him. Picked off by Clemson. Rashard Hall with his 4th interception, and that was
just a true living testimony game of what you do as a team, offense, defense, special teams, and when you got to step up the most on key drives and key possessions that you need to capitalize on.
We knew we could score every time we got the ball in our hands, but to be able to be held accountable and know that, hey, if we don't score, we're going to lose this game, because they were scoring on all cylinders, and we had to match that. So it was just a game of chess, and we were just moving fast and putting up points.
I can remember dropping back, take a quick 5 or whatever, roll that shoulder, and as soon as DeAndre made that end cut, I already knew what time it was. Emerson had anchored that foot. He was coming downhill, and it was over with from there.
Boyd, pump fake. Hopkins wide open. Hopkins, touchdown.
The Tigers took over the ball and went on to score 2 more touchdowns in the second quarter, and the Tigers had a 41-24 lead at intermission. Clemson ran 61 plays in the first half, which is just incredible. That's the most plays I can remember.
Pressure coming on Boyd. Great job to pick it up. There goes Taj Boyd.
As we've seen in this rivalry before, it's unexpected, unpredictable, and can you imagine the type of firepower in the first half? 65 total points between both teams. The question was, could that pace continue in the second half?
This segment was brought to you by First National Bank, helping businesses and individuals achieve their financial goals.
We're behind people rising to the challenge and neighbors looking after neighbors. We're behind small businesses with big ideas and struggling companies looking towards tomorrow. At First National Bank, we're behind every part of our community. We're working around the clock to ensure you have all the financial guidance and resources you need. And no matter what the future holds, you'll find us right where we've always been, behind you all the way.
Don't wait for tomorrow. Make the days count. Gatorade has carbs to fuel and electrolytes to help replenish, so you can count on the proven formula. Nothing beats Gatorade.
So we see in the first half the explosive power of the Clemson's offense under Chad Morris and led by Taj Boyd, 28 points in the second quarter. We haven't seen that type of explosion in a long time, but the Tigers weren't done yet.
There was a confidence, you're on 24-13, but you're thinking, you know, the way Clemson's been playing offensively this season and under Chad Morris, it almost takes on a basketball mindset where it becomes a game of runs. So NC State had their 24-point run. What's to say Clemson can't have its 24-point run? Well, they go even better than that. They have a 42-point run.
But that offense, it was kind of a situation where you get on the field and you say, outscore us, because you're probably not going to. We have Sammy Watkins, Nuke Hopkins, and Taj Boyd. Throw in Martavis Bryant and Adam Humphries, all NFL guys. The weapons were all over the field. And I think yes, you were worried, because when your team gives up 48 points, that's always, you're scratching your head there. But it truly felt like teams were going to have to outscore Clemson to beat them that year.
Boyd, after the pump fake, touchdown. Martavis Bryant, about as wide open as you could get.
That sigh of relief that you get as a fan when you know that your team's got the game under control. It hit probably midway through the third quarter where you felt like, all right, this thing's okay now. Even if they keep scoring, it's fine. The offense is moving. Clemson will score as many points as we need to win today. And that eventually that became the way that it seemed like everybody in the stadium kind of settled into the flow.
So Clemson actually went up 62-38 still in the third quarter on this 69-yard touchdown pass to Ford, which put him over the 100-yard mark.
It'll be 3rd and 4. There's the tight end Ford running free in the secondary. One man to beat. Ford hits the pylon. It's a touchdown. 69 yards. 240 pounds rumbling out in space.
They put 62 points on the board in 3 quarters. The third quarter isn't even over, and 62 points are up on the board. If you want to look at a Chad Morris moment, this is it.
NC State certainly was not going to give up, and Glennon was still going to throw the ball all over the yard. They scored a touchdown after Taj had thrown an interception. So they made the score 62-45, then kicked a field goal with about 7 minutes to go in the game. So it's 62-48, and there's still 7.5 minutes to go, and you're thinking, wow, what's gonna happen here? But fortunately, the Tigers were able to run the ball and throw the ball on this day. It's still the only game in Clemson history the Tigers had 300 yards rushing and 400 yards passing in the same game.
8 touchdowns put up on the board by Taj Boyd in this game. 5 touchdown passes, 3 rushing touchdowns. I mean, what he did to that NC State defense, should be against the law. I mean, it was just ridiculous.
Watching TB that game, it was nothing short of amazing. He did what he did best, and that was bring out leadership and then use his intangibles to be able to match with that tangible leadership he was giving and advising and just helping the whole morale.
There's no better feeling for me when I look at that stat sheet at the end of the game and Adam has a couple catches, Sharon has a couple catches, DeAndre has a couple catches, Martavis, Sammy, Brandon Ford, Andre Ellington, Rob McDowell. Bro, that is the most satisfying feeling.
Everybody talks about being in a zone, and Taj was truly in that zone to where he felt that anything he did, he had the right read. The game was at a slow pace for him at that point. And, he was clicking on all cylinders.
The maturity of Taj Boyd, whereas you'd seen growth in him throughout 2011, his first year as a starter, you really saw now a certain poise about him, a certain confidence, the ability to check off even better than he had the year before. And as 2012 went along, he and Chad Morris were really thinking as one.
So for all Tiger fans, this is one of those games where it was fun. We know that Dabo Swinney talks about fun is in the winning, and you couldn't get any better than this. Record offensive performance, not only by the entire team, but by Taj Boyd with 8 total touchdowns, and you get your 10th win of the season. Just a great performance overall.
This segment was brought to you by Roto-Rooter. When you need a local plumber fast, call Roto-Rooter.
Roto-Rooter Zero Contact Service is your assurance that we're putting safety first. On the job, we'll keep a safe distance, wear boot covers, face masks, disposable gloves, and other protective gear. We're following CDC guidelines, washing hands, and disinfecting touch points. And we'll put on fresh gloves before handling your paperwork and credit cards. You can depend on Roto-Rooter to lead the way in safety with Zero Contact Service.
So what makes your house a home?
Sitting on the front porch, relaxing at the end of the day.
Hands down, my wife's spaghetti.
A sense of security.
I'd say making it my own.
Playing with my son, definitely.
For whatever makes your house a home, we're here to protect it.
When America needed us to build, we built. Masks, ventilators, shields. When frontliners needed support, Ford dealers answered. And now we're open and ready to serve you. With exciting special offers and deals across the Ford lineup. Stop by a Ford dealership or go online. We've made it safer to shop, easier to buy. Now get 0% financing for 84 months on a 2019 Ford F-150. Contact your Carolina Ford dealer today.
So the final score in this one, 62-48, 110 points scored. There were over 1,350 total yards. The Textile Bowl living up to what it happens every year, right? Always weirdness in this game, but nobody expected the offensive explosion. And what a game for Taj Boyd. 8 total touchdowns, setting a Clemson record at the time. Just an amazing day overall for the Tigers.
It was as if the folks in Death Valley had to think that they arrived for one game and left after seeing, it was almost like they'd watched a doubleheader, 2 different games. And that was a huge turn. But I really thought the importance of that win was you probably don't get to play LSU in the Atlanta Bowl game if you don't beat NC State.
And then you see Taj Boyd just chucking the ball everywhere, and you got, big play after big play after big play after big play, 8 touchdowns for Taj. And then on the other side, you got Mike Glennon, who's not giving an inch, and they're make big plays, but run the ball. I mean, it's like, tit for tat back and forth. And it was sort of nostalgic in that way, that it was just one of those classic Clemson NC State games that there's going to be a lot of points, and it's going to be explosive. And it was up there in the Chad Morris era of one of the most dominating offensive performances that we saw from that team.
Taj Boyd was so great in that game, and so many of these key wins in 2011, 12, and 13, Taj was just on it, and he was either connecting with Sammy or connecting with Nuke. And you look at all the NFL guys that played in that game. I believe Brandon Ford had a big game, Adam Humphries, Martavis Bryant, the list just goes on and on. So Taj had weapons, but I don't care who you're playing. I don't care what month of the year it is. I don't care who your receivers are. If you account for 8 total touchdowns, you're a heck of a quarterback. And I remember specifically Taj Boyd's performance in that game.
The fact that you can get locked into such a state where you understand what's happening, but you're so in tune to what's going on right now in the present that you're able to go out there, and regardless of the scoreboard, regardless of what's happening in the stands, you hear nothing, you feel nothing, you're in it, you're being. I've only had 4 or 5 of those moments. This was one of them. And that's something that was special about this NC State game, is because, you're hard pressed to find it sometimes. And whenever they called, we were there to answer. And that's what was special about this offense, and that's what was special about this game.
It was the highest scoring game that we've seen in Death Valley, with the final at 62-48, 110 combined points. Interesting note, the following winter, the 2 basketball teams played. NC State won 58-57, so there were 115 points scored in the basketball game and 110 points scored in the football game. The Tigers had 754 yards of total offense in the game, just 2 yards short of the all-time record of 756. That came against Wake Forest in 1981. Of course, Boyd had an incredible game with over 400 yards passing. He accounted for 8 touchdowns in the game. And the Tigers had 2 100-yard rushers and 2 100-yard receivers. Still the only game in Clemson history the Tigers had had 2 of each category in the same game.
Another play. And a very quality win for Clemson. It does matter on the national stage, looking at the at-large games like this, putting up big numbers. So a good quality win for Clemson in their BCS resume.
So the Tigers get their revenge, 62-48 the final. And whenever you win these games, it's always a team effort. But the offensive explosion from Taj Boyd in this one with 8 total touchdowns, what a special day for him, what a special day for the Tigers, and that's what makes this one of Clemson's greatest games.
Clemson's Greatest Games is brought to you by Roto-Rooter. When you need a local plumber fast, call Roto-Rooter. And by First National Bank. Find a branch or ATM near you at fnb-online.com.